Hey, so I'm gonna play some Harry Potter, walk on the neighborhood, and talk about something else I did recently. So, sure enough of you are watching the anime Dr. Stone. I personally really enjoy it. They use especially since they use the real science to trying to explain how he does these things with the, Stone Age, Ancient Age technology that he has to use. But, he's trying to make a modern world. And so it sounds like, after the most recent episode where they had to obtain the crucial element for chemistry. And after that I was like, what would be kind of fun is to figure out how long might that actually take. Now, of course, I don't have any kind of anime pro tag considerations or anything like that, but I do have Civilization 5. So I decided to run a game of Civ 5 and try to make decisions that I think the hero of the story, Senku, would make. I already know a few of them. Of course, he's going to prioritize science among any kind of culture. Culture second. But any kind of religion, any kind of, military or anything like that. He has the option to make gunpowder, but he's not making weapons. He even told Geen that he wouldn't be making weapons with it. With the iron that he created. Or found. The iron that he made. He wasn't necessarily creating weapons with it yet. And a lot of the times he has done anything with weapons is with Kinro and Ginro, and it's really kind of either been, for Kinro he was showing off, trying to gain his attention and his trust, and with, I think it was Kinro, by keeping their names mixed up, Silver Spear. The Silver Spear wasn't really for a weaponry use. I mean, it happens to be on his spear, sure. But Senku didn't do it for the purpose of giving him a weapon. He did it for the purpose of giving him a detection tool. So, that being said, obviously Senku is going to produce more science, perhaps culture, because he seems very about the cultural aspect that technology tends to play in society. That's why he's doing things like, he mentioned things like video games and, animes that he watches. These are cultural things that are relevant to him. And he does sometimes take time to explain them to the ancient people who have no need to know what these things are. He's not trying to make, dating simulators yet, but he will still, explain things about video games to people. But in that, I think what we see here is a science, then production, then culture. These are the boosts that Senku's going to want fastest if he were making his scientific society, based on how I think he would make his scientific society while playing a game like Civilization. So I looked through the leaders of Civ 5, and I have the Brave New World DLC of Civ 5. So I have a couple more expanded options, but I went ahead and I picked Nebuchadnezzar. Because the Babylonians get a bonus to science production, and I believe they actually start the game, or they have a started bonus toward getting great scientists. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed, because great scientists are awesome to use for discovering new technologies faster. It would represent the sort of rushed way that Senku already knows to do these things in order to advance technology as fast as he plans to. I didn't put any barbarians. I thought maybe, the barbarians would be a good stand-in for, Tsukasa's tribe or whatever. But I went ahead and instead I went with a different civilization because I wanted it to be a little more human AI because Tsukasa is still intelligent. He's not just a rampaging lunatic. Subaru, I can't remember his name either. Anyway, but the fact of the matter is I went in with somebody who was a bit more military organized. So I went ahead and I picked China. So it was China and Babylon. We started in the ancient century, so it's total Stone Age. And how fast can we advance? Well, I also decided to do nothing to actually antagonize China, first of all, because, well, Senku doesn't go out of his way to antagonize his rival. He just kind of lets him be, at least for now. He knows he's not ready for him, so he makes technological advances necessary. This is also my line of thinking here. It's like, I won't necessarily do anything to hurt China, but if their goals don't match with my needs, like they don't want to fund science at the World the World Council meeting or whatever, then I'm not going to support what they want, because I want science and I'm going to have more votes, because culture was my second. Start off with small things in culture, just things like monuments or things like that. I didn't take any policies that boosted culture, but I did take a lot of them that were water-based, because just like the area where Senku is right now, he's very close to the shore. All of my cities were off of coastal regions, which means that some of the policies in scientific study that I had taken also boosted citizen happiness and production, things like that, and more science from coastal regions, more culture from coastal regions. Things like that gave culture for every lighthouse that I had. I just made like 5 cities with lighthouses in it. 6 cities, they were all on the coast, so they all had lighthouses. Then also I would enter into research agreements with China, and I kept one diplomat in China. I figured that was congruent with not only but with his 2 people who are basically spying in Tsukasa's nation right now, Tanjiro and his girlfriend. Name escapes me again. Sorry. But yeah, Tanjiro is Demon Slayer. Teju? Oh god, these names are getting me tonight. Anyway, he's got his friends in there that are essentially spying for him. He calls them spies. I didn't call mine spies. I had them being called delegates because I wasn't trying to antagonize China. And he's not trying to antagonize them either. But they would always tell me when China was spying on me, which was very, very frequently. They stole technology from me out of the nose. So, and which is the only reason why they really advanced. I did do things like at one point they wanted to repeal science funding, but they wanted more military funding. So I was like, no, that's not going to happen. And then I'm going to specifically vote down a world military tax. Because, of course, I had no military. It didn't affect me. I was rolling in cash while China kept getting angry that I wouldn't let them have an army. The one thing that sucked was that, as always, every time I play a game of Civ 5, it's always the other civilization has uranium on their borders, but they also can't use it as fast as me. So I ended up having to go to China and request to trade for uranium at one point, just so I can make a couple of death metal robots. Because let's be honest, Senku's always got that fantasy where he has his army and he's in the death metal robot. So I think that was pretty apt. I'm gonna get killed here, aren't I? Yup. All right. Well, I'll be back in 30 seconds to beat him up again. So, yeah, I only had a couple of those, just because. About 200 turns in, was a diplomatic victory. Unfortunately, not a science one. Probably because I had more culture than China, and I never did anything to antagonize them. But Senku also has a more diplomatic approach to obtaining allies than he does a, introverted or secretive approach. He's very much diplomatic, and he gets people to be diplomatic for him. With that being said, about 50 turns after that, because I wanted to at least get to the point where I know I would get a science victory, and it was only about 50 turns after that I had all of the spaceship's parts set up, and I had airports and spaceship factories in every city. I had already finished future tech like 4 or 5 times at that point. I was, even though my ships were rocking, all kinds of outfit. I never had any military aside from just like the 2 death metal robots and the scout and the warrior that you get like at the start of the game. But that was really cool. That was interesting. It was technically a Dr. Stone scientific victory in Civ 5. Maybe I'll try a different approach next time to try and boost my science a little bit faster, and see if that helps at all in actually getting the scientific victory before I get a diplomatic one.